and welcome to a video on how to use trigonometric ratios. So we're going to use trig ratios to find an unknown side length in a right triangle as well as solve real-world problems. So for each of the following triangles, determine the ratios requested and solve each equation for y. Round your final answer to the nearest tenth. So on the first one, A, it says find sine of 41. So I'm going to ignore this 49 for now, and I'm going to label my triangle based off being at angle 41, okay? All right, so first thing to find is your hypotenuse across from the 90. So your hypotenuse is the 100. The y is going to be opposite of the 41, so that is your O. So if we wanted to, we could write an A over here, but it's not necessary right now. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so I'm going to say y over 100. Okay? So now, I'm going to highlight that division sign. How you would solve this problem. So I'm trying to get y by itself, and so it's dividing by 100. The opposite of dividing by 100 is multiplying by 100. Okay? So you can multiply 100 to each side. That will cancel out, and all you do is type it in. Now, with our calculator, we have to make sure it's in degree. So I'm going to go to mode, and notice mine is not in degree, so I'm going to highlight degree. And then I'm going to hit second mode to quit out of it. Okay? So now I'm going to type in sine 41. The most important thing here is that you close it because sine of 41 is together, and then that answer has to be multiplied by 100. Okay? So our final answer is 65.6. Okay? So y is equal to 61.6. Okay? So that is an example of how you would solve a trig ratio if your variable is in the numerator. Okay? So you're basically just going to be cross-multiplying these numbers. Okay? So in our trig video we watched, or we were going to watch, I'm not sure if we watched it or not yet, but if it's x up high, meaning x is in the numerator, you know to multiply. Okay? So fun. All right, let's look at part B. Change my color pen. So this time it wants me to find cosine of 28. So I'm going to ignore this 62 right now, and I'm going to label my triangle based off being at angle 28. Okay? So cosine deals with adjacent over hypotenuse. So here's my opposite, here's my adjacent, and here is my hypotenuse. Okay, so that opposite, I don't know anything about it, I don't care about it, I don't want to find it. Okay, so cosine is A, so 18, over the hypotenuse, which is y. I'm trying to solve for it. Okay, so now problems that look like this are a little bit trickier because your variable is in the denominator, so it's a little bit more steps. I'm going to show you it full out and then teach you a shortcut first. So same thing over here, I want to multiply what's in the denominator. So I'm going to multiply by y, and I'm going to multiply by y. Okay? Over here, your y's are going to cancel out, so it's no longer in the denominator, which is good. So I'm going to bring this down. Y times the cosine of 28 equals, left over is an 18. Okay? So all I did was get that y out of the denominator. Okay? Now, if I want to solve for y, since they are multiplying by cosine of 28, which is just some number, I need to do the opposite, which is dividing. So I'm going to divide by that entire thing, cosine of 28. If you do it to one side, we're going to do it to the other side. Okay? My cosines of 28 are going to cancel, leaving you with y by itself, which is what we wanted, equals 18 divided by cosine of 28, okay? And that's what I would type in the calculator. So, let's get our calculator out. Double check to see if it's in degrees. It is, okay? So you can either, I'm gonna teach you two ways to type it in. You can say 18 division sign cosine 28 and get the answer. I forgot to close it, but it's okay. 20.4. Or if you want to do a fraction, you can hit the green button, y equals, enter, and also type in 18 over cosine 28. You get the exact same thing, okay? So you get to pick how you want to type it in, but the final answer is 20.4. Okay, so that was a lot of work, so I'm going to teach you a shortcut. Okay, so I'm going to erase this. So if you don't have this written down, go ahead and press pause. But I'm going to teach you a shortcut. All right, the shortcut. Let me set it up again. Okay, so y is down low. So up here, y was up high, so we multiply. Here, y is down low, so they're going to switch, okay? So what that means is y now comes up to the top, and then all of cosine 28 comes down into the denominator, with that 18 still staying on top. So all I did was this y completely switched places with the cosine of 28, okay? Which is a whole lot faster than all the work that we just did, okay? You can also remember it, y down low, divide, kind of however you want to memorize it. But that's some ways to do a little shortcut to save you some time with trig, okay? All right, let me know if you have any questions on that, but that is how you solve for a missing side using trig ratios, okay? So let's do another one. All right, we're going to do this problem two ways, okay? It's exciting about math is you get to pick a lot of different ways to do it. So I have two triangles here. They're the exact same triangle. I'm just going to show you two ways to do it, and you get to pick your favorite, okay? All right, choose an acute angle in triangle ABC, okay? In this case, they gave me 20 degrees, so I'm going to choose angle C, okay? So I'm doing this choosing angle C. Identify the sides as opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse in respect to the angle that we chose. Since we chose C, let's label our triangle based off that. So I'm going to do the hypotenuse first, opposite the 90. Then I'm going to do my opposite. The only angle side opposite of C is this x over here, meaning that BC is left over, and that is my A. Okay? All right, so I did part B. C is to use the sides to choose an appropriate trig function. So I have to figure out what I know. I'm trying to find x, and I know the hypotenuse. I don't care about the A. I'm not trying to find it. I don't know anything about it. So I'm just going to scribble it out because it's not important right now. Okay? All right, so now I'm going to set up my trig ratio similar to what we did on the front. So first off, O and H. You have to figure out what trig function that is. And so that's when we use our SOHCAHTOA. Okay, so since I'm dealing with an O and an H, it's going to be the first one of sine. So you're going to start off by writing the trig function that is appropriate. The angle is where you are going to write the trig function from. So the angle gives us our ratio. So sine of 20, and then sine of 20 is going to equal. And here's where we did our second part, where we set up our ratio. So sine is opposite over adjacent, so x over 15. Okay? So now, x is up high. That's how I know to multiply. So I'm going to multiply those two numbers and be done. So let's get our calculator. So sine of 20, do not forget to close it, times 15. See, I'll show you what happens when you don't close it. You get some crazy not right answer, okay? So make sure you close it. But sine of 20 times 15 is 5.13. I'll leave it as 5.13. Okay, and we're done. Isn't this so fun? I love trig. Okay, so that's how we solve a right triangle for a side using trig. Now I'm going to show you another way. Okay, I don't suggest using this way, but I'm going to show you just because math is fun. So in the last problem, I chose angle C. In this next problem, I can actually choose angle A. So I know a triangle adds up to 180, and I know I've already used 90. And I know angle A and angle C have to be complementary, so they have to add up to 90. So I can say 90 take away 20 degrees is 70 degrees. So I already know that angle A is 70 degrees, because if you know one angle in a right triangle, you automatically know the other. Okay, so now I'm going to label my triangle based off us being at angle A. So hypotenuse is opposite the 90, so that's over here. Opposite of the 70 would be down here, and that means x is going to be left over to be our adjacent side. Okay, so similar. I don't care about O. I'm not trying to find O, so I'm going to completely ignore it. I'm going to scribble it out. Okay, then I'm going to ask myself, what trig deals with an A and an H? Look over here. We got cosine for the C. So I'm going to write down my trig function of cosine. Okay, I'm doing cosine of my angle, which is 70. And I'm going to set up my ratio. So cosine is A over H, so x over 15. Okay, so notice I have a very similar problem on the left and the right side. X is up high, so I'm going to multiply those two terms. And if you type it in, fun fact, you're going to get the same answer. Okay? And that makes sense because I didn't change my problem. It's the same triangle. I just did it a separate way. Okay? The other reason this makes sense is back to our relationship between the two acute angles. So sine of 20 and cosine of 70 are going to be the same because sine of 20, 90 minus 20 is 70. So they're complementary angles and their sine and cosines are going to be the same. Okay, so you get to pick how you want to solve this. I suggest sticking with the angle they give you because why do more work? But it's totally up to you. Okay? All right, let me know if you have any questions on that. We're going to move on. All right. So use your knowledge of trig functions to find the value of y in the triangle below. Okay? So they gave me 10 degrees over here. So choose an acute angle. I'm going to choose angle F because they gave it to you. Again, you could figure out what angle E is and do it the other way. Let's not do more work on ourselves. So identify the adjacent, opposite, and hypotenuse. I always do the hypotenuse first, opposite the 90. Then I always do opposite of my angle. So the only side not touching my angle, so I'll highlight this, touching, touching. The only side not touching is this DE, okay? So that may help you find the opposite side as well. Meaning that 12 is my adjacent side, it's touching. Okay? Oh, it's a smiley face. All right. Now, I remember, you're going to have unimportant information. So this O is not important. I don't care about it. I don't want to find it. I don't really care about it right now. Okay? All right, so I have an A, which is 12, and I have an H, which is Y. So what trig function deals with an A and an H? That would be cosine. Okay? So I'm going to be using cosine. So let's set up our equation. So cosine, parentheses, your angle will always go in there. So cosine of 10. Cosine stands for adjacent over hypotenuse. So 12 is in the numerator, y is in the denominator. Okay? Remember, this is the little one that's a bit tricky because y is down low. So when it's down low, they're going to switch, you know, or down low divide. So this 12 is going to stay in my numerator. Y is going to come up to the top by itself. And then cosine of 10 altogether is going to come down to the bottom. Okay? So they're going to switch places, you know? All right, now let's type it in. 12 divided by, let me answer that. Divide by cosine 10, close it. All right, so we have 12 point, we'll round it to 2. Okay, and that is the length of our y. This answer makes sense because it is bigger than a 12, not by a ton, but it is. Okay, all right, that is how you use trig to find a missing side length. So first off, you label your triangle based off the angle which you know, decide which trig function to use, set up your equation, and solve it. If x is up high, multiply. If x is down low, x and the angle will switch, you know. Okay? All right, we're going to do a real-world example, and then I will set you free. All right, we're going to make sense of problems. Trisha did an exceptional job creating logos as she was given the task of making a banner and representing her company at a job fair. Go, Trisha. When she got to the job fair, she was relieved to see there was a ladder she could hang the banner. While she waited for someone to help her, she leaned the 12-foot ladder against the wall behind the booth. The ladder made an angle of 75 degrees with the floor. Use the information above to draw and label a triangle. Okay? So, we've talked about ladders before. Ladders are going to be your hypotenuse. Okay? And then this is going to be the wall in which she leaned her ladder up against. Okay? Now it says the angle made a 75 degrees angle with the floor. Okay? So the ladder and the floor, where they meet, is going to be 75 degrees. Okay? By the way, the angle will always be down here. Always, always, always. All right, and then I know it is a 12-foot ladder. So I'm going to put 12 foot here. Okay? So that is my picture. It's beautiful. All right. Set up and solve an equation to find how far up the wall the ladder is going to reach. Okay? So up the wall would mean this up and down side length. Okay? So let's solve a problem to figure out how up and down the wall is. So let's label our triangle. Here's my H, opposite the 90. X would be your opposite side, meaning that the base of the triangle is the A. Okay? So I'm not looking for my A right now. I'm looking for opposite and hypotenuse, which is sine. So sine 75 equals opposite over hypotenuse. Okay? X is up high. I can multiply. So let's multiply those in the calculator. Sine of 75 times 12. Should get 11.59 feet. They didn't tell me what to round to, so I'm going to leave it like that. Okay, so that's how far up the ladder reaches. Okay? Now, part C says find the distance from the base of the wall. So now I'm going to be finding the base of the wall. Now I can use it two different ways. Okay? I'm going to do trig, the first way to show you. So if I want to do trig, I'm trying to find an A, and I know my H. So the trig function for an A and an H is going to be cosine. So I would have cosine of 75 equals, cosine is your adjacent, so that's my x in this case, over the hypotenuse, which is 12. Okay? So x is up high, I'm going to multiply. So all I have to do is multiply those out. Cosine 75 times 12. So that length is going to be 3.11 or 3.1. Okay? So that is one way. You can use trig if you have an angle and you're trying to find a side and you know your third side. But there's another way you can pick too. So the Pythagorean Theorem, I told you it was never going to go away. So in my triangle, I knew the hypotenuse was 12. In my previous problem, I found the height was 11.59, and I'm trying to find the base. So we can do the Pythagorean Theorem without using trig. Okay, so let's try that method. So 11.59 squared plus x squared equals 12 squared. Okay, I would subtract 11.5 squared to get x squared equals whatever that is. So let's type that in. So 12 squared minus 11.59 squared. Okay, that's what I get for my answer. So 9.67 something. Okay, and then I'm going to have to square my final answer to get x by itself. So I'm going to hit second x squared. I'm going to hit second, the negative sign, to go ahead and copy and paste it for me. And I get the same thing. Okay, so it is up to you. how you want to choose to do it. If you like trig, because you love trig now, feel free to do that. If you love the Pythagorean theorem, by all means, you get to pick that as well. Okay? All right. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I want you to try the check your understanding on this next page. So try 5 through 8. I want you to round all answers to the nearest hundredth, so give me 2 decimal places here, okay? All right, so press pause and try 5 through 8. All right, let's talk about these answers. So, number 5 was explain how you can find the length of the hypotenuse without using the Pythagorean theorem. So I couldn't use the Pythagorean theorem because I didn't know the length of FD, so you'd have to know the length of 2 sides. And so I would have to use cosine ratio, and so I said cosine of 25 equals my adjacent, which is 16, over my x, and since x was down low, x and the angle will switch, you know. So you get somewhere around a 17.65 feet, okay? All right, number 6 says, Joe says she can find BC using the equation sine of 40 equals BC over 62. Liam says he can find it using cosine 50 equals BC over 62. Who is correct? So, whoops, what just happened? There we go. They're both correct. So if you remember, sine of one number and cosine of the complementary number are going to be the same. Okay, so what Liam did was he found this top angle to be 50. And so what are we trying to find? BC. So Joe used opposite over hypotenuse, and then Liam used adjacent over hypotenuse, and you'll still get the exact same thing. So they're both right. All right. Down here are answers. I'm going to show some of my work. So the answer was 23.78 and then 7.73. Here is how I set my triangle up. You're just going to multiply those because x was up high or y was up high to get those numbers. Over here on B, you should get 26.16 and 27.51. So your x was your opposite, hypotenuse was y, and then your adjacent was 8.5. So my work over here for finding my x value in green, you had to multiply those. And then over here, I did cosine of 72 to get my y value. Okay, and you had to divide those because x was down low. Okay, so feel free to pause this video and ask me any questions you have, or see if you can find the mistake that you made, if you made any. On C, the answer was 34. I did tangent of 45 equaled my opposite over my hypotenuse. So since x was down low, I had to switch them and divide them to get 34. And then for 48, let's see, adjacent. Nope, that was y, sorry. I just explained that one. So 45 would be your hypotenuse, and then your opposite, which is sine. So sine of 45 equals 34 over h, or your y. You had to divide those again, and that's how I got 48.08. Okay? So if you have any questions on that, let me know. Or you can pause this screen right here to see your work, see if you messed up anywhere. Check your answers. Okay? And then last but not least, it wanted you to find the perimeter. And so I had to solve for this side and this side. So I solved for my opposite side here in red to get 5.62. For my blue side, my adjacent side, I got 13.91. And then perimeter, you got to add all of them up. So don't forget to include the 15 to get 34.53. Area. So hopefully you remembered area of a triangle is 1/2 the base times the height. And so you would use the two numbers you got, the 13.19 and the 5.62, multiply them and then divide them by 2 or multiply them by half to get 39.09 feet squared. Okay. Let me know if you have any questions on that. And why am I moving my head around? Thanks for watching. Good luck practicing. Let me know if you need any help.